What's up, guys? Welcome to the Second Take. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jonah.
And we're back for another week of discussions. So it's been a relatively quiet week, which probably isn't a bad thing, but this podcast is going to be mainly focused on the NBA and NHL playoffs. So we're going to get started with the week in review. Jonah's pockets got a little bit fatter when my Capitals went down swinging, but I was pleased with the effort, so that's all right. We got a good Eastern Conference Finals matchup and a 10 times better Western Conference Finals matchup in the NBA playoffs, with the Raptors playing the Cavs and the Warriors playing the Thunder. And a bunch of teams no one believed in are now in the NHL Conference Finals, which is kind of shocking. And Nyquist is on his way to a triple crown, in my opinion. So we're going to get started in the NBA this week. And just quickly before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about the NBA Combine, which just happened. This is probably the first thing that Jonah and I believe the NCAA got right, with allowing players who could return to college, allowing them to participate in the Combine, see where their draft stock is, and then potentially return to college if they don't like where they're positioned. So it's good to see like players at Maryland like Melo Trimble, who could come back and be really good and be a first-round pick, or could go to the draft right now and be a second-round pick or undrafted. He gets to test that out and see what he thinks, so we're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they should have been doing all along. I think that's what every sport should do. I don't think you should have kids declaring for the draft without knowing whether they're going to do well. Because you see a lot of kids where, like, they'll declare a little bit too early and their draft stock will be lower than they thought. Like, they go in the second round or whatever, and they bounce around the D League for a while, and like they really could have benefited from an extra year of school.
Right.
So I think this is a good thing. I think every sport should do something like this.
Yeah, and all these players, I mean, obviously everyone thinks they're better than they really are, and they all have their family in their ear like, oh, you got to be a top 5 pick, when in reality
right.
You might be a late second-round pick at best.
Well, right. I mean, these guys have had like smoke blowing up their butts their entire lives, really, because like most guys who are playing, who are even possibilities to play pro basketball, have been the best players on their team for their entire lives.
Right.
Like by far, and they've been like the greatest players that high school's ever seen, or all this stuff. And so I think to have this kind of reality check, maybe, and to be able to go back to school after that, I think that's a good move.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the second year of this happening, I think, right?
Yeah, I think this was introduced last year.
Yeah, so second year, so hopefully it'll continue. It looks like it's working, having a lot of kids come back to school. Like Kennedy Meeks is one that comes to mind, who wasn't even invited to the Combine and ends up going back to school just because of that. So
yeah, he was not ready for the NBA.
Yeah. So that's definitely a good thing. Yeah, hopefully we'll get more people graduating, and then we'll have better draft picks. I believe the first round picks will probably be a hell of a lot better in the future.
And it makes for better college ball too, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. That's why we had the year of the senior last year.
Right, and hopefully if this continues, we'll have more and more years of the senior, because we can all agree how great an NCAA tournament this was.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll get into big time into the NBA now. So this week, in my mind, one of the most incorrect statements by Tracy McGrady was made, where he said the NBA is so much more watered down now than it was, like, let's say 95, 96, when Jordan and the Bulls were going back-to-back and he was winning MVPs left and right. So he thinks, basically what he was saying was, the stars at that time, so Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan, all those guys, they were much better now, and there was much more star power than there is in the NBA today, which I think couldn't be farther from the truth. And I know Jonah thinks the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like comparing eras anyway in sports, just because like there's so many different factors besides the skill of the players, like the way the game is played, and like all the conditioning and all that stuff. So if you actually put, the 97 Bulls on a court with this year's Warriors would win. Because I don't know, I just think they're much better conditioned. But like you have to look at it from like a more relative point of view. But I think even from that point of view, I think it's silly to say that like the league is more watered down now. Like if you look at some of the rosters of teams from back I mean, like, that was such a polarized league back then. Like, there were some dominant teams, and everybody else was kind of sucked.
Right.
And I think that was true for a lot of NBA history, and NBA still has a little bit of a problem with that. I mean, it's not necessarily a problem in terms of the good of the league, because, like, it's still obviously very entertaining, but, like, there are just teams that you know before the season have no shot whatsoever of making the playoffs, or, like, in other sports. It's more of an anything can happen type deal.
Right. So, I mean, even with, like, what you just said, I think Tracy McGrady was saying that, that there was a greater number of superstars on each team in the NBA. So, like, across the board, every team had superstars. But I don't think that was really true, because there was a lot of teams that didn't have, like, they might have had a go-to player, but they weren't like, wow, this guy is a top 15 player in the NBA. Whereas, like, in the NBA now, you have teams like the Kings, you have teams like the Pelicans, who DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis are two of the top 10 players in the NBA, and they might never make the playoffs because they're just on a team that's not as good as the other teams. Like, you have, with the Warriors, who are the best team in the NBA, you have 3 players that are top 15, top 20 players in the NBA. And if you put any of them on another team, they'd probably be the best player on that team.
Right, and then OKC has, like, 2 of the top 6.
Yeah, yep. And, I mean, LeBron's great, Kyrie's great. I think, like, each team has probably 2 players that are very good, and one of them's usually a superstar.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, it's possible that it might have been harder to win a title back then, but I think it was easier to win 72 games back then.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the style of the game, too. Like, back then it was much more of a gritty, grinded out, like the way Memphis plays, kind of. Like, punch you in the mouth, and we'll take a couple punches, but we're going to punch you back harder. And now it's much more finesse, like, oh, I'm going to hit 4 threes in a row in your face, and then break your ankle and hit another one, and how are you going to answer to that?
Right, I mean, it's a totally different style of game. Like, basketball is a totally different place than what, I don't know, like 20 years ago with what Tracy McGrady was talking about.
Right. I mean,
I mean, if you're comparing it to that era, it's definitely a comparison. If you're comparing it to Tracy McGrady's era, though, which I think is ironic, like, Tracy McGrady's era was one of the worst eras of the NBA.
Yeah, or like Vince Carter and T-Mac were running everything, but not winning championships.
Like the era just before LeBron got to the league, like the early 2000s, and maybe like for the first couple of years LeBron was there, but he wasn't like absolute megastar LeBron yet.
Right.
Like those first few years were like, I mean, Iverson was probably the best player in the league at that time.
Yeah, I mean, you had the Spurs, the Lakers, and the Celtics basically just switching years to win titles at that time.
Right, and so, yeah, right, exactly. Like before the Kobe Shaq runs, like even during the Kobe Shaq run, like when they had the 3 titles in a row,
yeah,
like that league was definitely watered down.
Right. Yeah, they were just waiting for like a new opponent.
Right, because a lot of the guys who were supposed to be really great didn't pan out exactly like they were supposed to. Like guys like Chris Webber and Penny Hardaway and Steve Francis, like guys like that.
Yeah.
They were all good, but they didn't turn into like the superstars they're supposed to be. I don't know. I mean, Penny Hardaway was supposed to be Magic Johnson, and like he was great, but he wasn't Magic Johnson, and so it just didn't. I don't know. If we're talking about that era, like that was when I first started following basketball. They used to get like Sports Illustrated for Kids preview magazine, you know.
Yep.
And then have like the previews of each conference. I think that's with Jason Kidd being the best player on the team. Like I don't know, even prime Jason Kidd is not taking your team to an Eastern Conference title right now.
Right, and you had
in this league.
And you had Steve Nash. I mean, that was like the year of, or the era of point guard, really, like playmaking point guards.
Right. Yeah. I mean, those guys, Gary Payton being on that list, also like, right. And now, like, there are so many good point guards that like a decent point guard is like a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just not that valuable commodity. That's why you're not going to see Jeff Teague get overpaid this summer, I don't think, just because, like, it's not that hard to find a good point guard right now. Like, the hard thing to find is wings. And so you're going to see guys like Harrison Barnes get really overpaid, while you might see guys like Jeff Teague get underpaid, just because of, like, the amount of what's available at each position.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think that So like you have players now that, I mean, not talking about the Stephs and the LeBrons and the Durants and the Westbrooks, like those are all amazing basketball players. We all know that. But then the second tier of guys, they're all pretty good. Like the Klay Thompsons, the Draymond Greens, the Kyrie Irvings, the Isaiah Thomases. Those guys are like pretty solid basketball players. And I feel like in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, it was all great basketball players, and then like 3 steps down, and then pretty good basketball players. Nobody was like...
Yeah, I agree with that.
There was no middle segment.
Right, there probably were more superstars back then, but it was like less of a deep league. It was kind of like a lot of teams had like the stars and scrubs mentality, which like is kind of what OKC has done, but they've done a good job developing their depth guys. Right. So like that's the key to success in today's NBA, I think, which is why we saw the Thunder surprise everyone. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, but that's exactly why I think it's less watered down, because you need the depth. That you can't just have that one superstar that's going to take you over the top. Like we saw with LeBron. How many times did he try to do it by himself, and he couldn't do it? Went to Miami, did it twice, and then came back to Cleveland hoping to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this OKC team as currently constructed, like over the last few years, like if you put them in the Jordan Pippen league, they would have won like a couple of titles easily.
Yeah, I think so too.
But like the league is just differently structured now, so that you need depth. That's why like the Warriors, who have like 12 solid players, including a superstar, like
maybe even 2 or 3 superstars.
Right. Yeah, depending on what you think of Klay and Draymond, and depending on what you think of Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, which I don't think highly of, and I'm sure we'll get to that over the summer when he gets a stupid amount of money.
No, he's going to get too much.
Yeah. Yeah, but, alright, yeah, so we don't think the NBA is watered down at all. If anything, it's much better. I mean, yeah, you do have the Eastern Conference that's watered down a little bit, where bad teams are getting in the playoffs, but you also have the West, where if you're not like 10 games over 500, you don't have a shot in hell. So it evens itself out a little bit. So you want to get to LeBron now?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, so this was said by, I want to say Jalen Rose, don't quote me on it, I'm not 100% positive, but there was an argument made on NBA Shoot-Around that LeBron James is the most underappreciated athlete of all time. And Jonah and I disagree on this one, but I completely agree with what I think Jalen Rose said, that LeBron is the most underappreciated. And I think a perfect example of it is the MVP race, where LeBron finishes in 3rd place. Yes, Kawhi Leonard had a great year. Yes, Steph Curry 110% deserves the MVP if it's for most outstanding player instead of most valuable. But LeBron James is incredibly underappreciated because I think every year he does the same thing. He'll get 25, he'll get 7, he'll get 7. He'll lead his team to the Eastern Conference Finals. He'll make the finals usually, hopefully. And it's just become second nature to all basketball fans to be like, oh yeah, LeBron's in the finals. Oh yeah, LeBron had 30, 10, and 10 again. And I think that takes away from a lot of the greatness that he is and he provides. I don't think everyone says Kobe in terms of the way he plays is the closest thing to Jordan, but I think in terms of best player ever, LeBron is the closest thing to Jordan, and I have always been a believer that LeBron will be better than Michael Jordan someday. I know that the rings probably won't be there. The MVPs are certainly going to be there, and his overall success might not be as good as Jordan, but again, we can go back to the watered-down league to have a little bit of effect with that. But I just think LeBron is incredibly underappreciated.
I'm not denying anything you said about how great LeBron is. Like, obviously he's amazing. I don't think that he's really underappreciated though. Like, especially historically. I mean, here's a guy who's been like famous as like the second coming of Jesus in basketball since he was like 16.
Right.
Like he had his high school games on ESPN. Like the hype for this guy was like unprecedented, pretty much, and like he lived up to it. I mean, I think by the time he's done, he might be the second best player of all time. Not quite one of the sort of below Jordan just yet, but like I think I think people pretty much do appreciate him as much as he deserves. I mean, I know he probably doesn't get paid attention to as much as he maybe should be, just because of how amazing the Warriors have been the last couple of years. They've gotten a lot more attention, especially with Steph. But I don't necessarily disagree with him being third on MVP ballot. I think that's probably where I would have had him. I mean, maybe I'm just part of the underappreciation then, but I think that I don't know. I think with someone who's as big a deal as LeBron, someone who's scrutinized as much as LeBron, with someone who is I don't know, he's the face of the modern NBA, even though Curry's been better the last couple of years. I don't really see where he's underappreciated exactly.
All right, so let me ask you two questions. First question is, this year, if you took one player off of a playoff team's roster, which team would be worse off? I guess I'm saying. So if you took one superstar off any playoff team's roster, which team would have the biggest drop off?
Well, probably LeBron.
Okay.
I would think, but I think the fact that it's not Steph, I mean, it was kind of demonstrated that it's not Steph because they did.
Right.
I mean, they didn't do wonderful without him.
They still would have. I think they still would have made the playoffs at the very least. And
so do I.
And you take Kawhi off, and that doesn't. I mean, it has an effect obviously, but LaMarcus Aldridge, if you ever watch a Spurs game, is the go-to player on that offense. I know
Right.
that the things Kawhi brings defensively and just his calm, cool collectedness is huge, obviously. But
I don't know. I think that has more to do with the team baseline, though. I think.
No, yeah, absolutely.
LeBron hurts them more because the Cavs are not as good as the Warriors.
Absolutely.
So, I don't think that necessarily makes LeBron better. I understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that was for the MVP thing. Just saying, in terms of most valuable player, he was probably the most valuable player, but he wasn't the most outstanding.
I mean, sometimes people just kind of get fatigued of voting for a certain person. There was one year, it's in the late 90s, I think it was 98, I'm not sure, where Karl Malone won the MVP. And, the best player in the league was clearly Michael Jordan, but, Jordan had won, 3 in a row, so everybody just kind of decided we're going to vote for somebody else this time.
Yeah.
And so Malone won as MVP, and he was a great player who wasn't as good as Jordan or as valuable.
Right.
Sometimes people, I don't know, I think Kawhi was just, kind of the new commodity this year. I mean, he wasn't a new commodity, but, this was, his breakout into a superstar.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And so they put him above LeBron. So, I think people still appreciate how great LeBron is.
All right, now second question. If you could pick one player in the NBA to start an NBA franchise with, who would you pick?
I
know it's a loaded question.
Well, the thing is picking,
just go with your gut.
I think right now you want to build a team around LeBron, but, he's also older than Steph.
Right.
So, if I'm building a long-term franchise, I'm probably picking Steph, even though there's, a little bit more of an injury possibility because he's younger and he's where the league is headed. But if I'm picking, a team to win the NBA Finals next season, I'm probably starting my team with LeBron.
All right, how about this then? Take away age, take everything out of the equation except for just pure skill. Who and current NBA, who are you picking? Is it LeBron? Just purely skill based.
I don't know if I mean, he has more skills that he's good at than Steph does.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But Steph, I don't know, the levels he reaches with some of the skills he has are higher than I think LeBron reaches with any of his.
Right.
Just because Steph as a shooter, as a passer, and as a ball handler, he's maybe the best in the league at all of them. But he's obviously not a good defender. LeBron is a great defender in addition to being good at the other.
Well, Steph is no doubt in my mind the best scorer in the NBA, maybe that we might ever see. There's still a lot to go with that, but I mean, he's not great defensively, but he did lead the league in steals this year. His first
not
game,
like a great one-on-one guy.
Yeah. His first game back, he had 40. I think he had 10 rebounds and 9 assists or something, or 9 rebounds, 8 assists, something crazy.
Yeah, he gets rebounds too. That's what people don't think about.
For a 6'1" guard to ever sniff 10 rebounds, that's impressive. I don't care what you say, anything, that's impressive.
He just always knows where to be. Like, he has such good basketball IQ.
Right. So I would pick LeBron in the question I just asked you, and it's for one reason. It's because there's not one aspect. That's a lie, because he can't shoot jump shots. He can, but he's not perfect at it. But there's not one thing that he does wrong or that he does poorly. Yes, he doesn't make a lot of threes. Yes, sometimes his jump shot's off. But the way he plays defense, the way he can rebound, the way he passes, the way he can get to the rim, his basketball IQ, just the way he goes about his business is something that I really have never seen in any sport, for that matter. It's like a Peyton Manning type of deal in football, where he just wants to be so great.
Yeah, the thing always about Ron, I used to be the guy that was and grown to love watching him play and really appreciate what I'm watching. With LeBron, just the way he moves, he's like, you can't take your eyes off him. Like, I forget where the ball is sometimes when he's running around off the ball. Because, like, I don't know, it's like a strange phenomenon with him because he's not the biggest guy in the court ever.
Right.
He always feels a foot taller than everyone else. Like, he just feels like just this massive presence on the court. Like, the coolest thing he does that I always love to see is when he drives and he's just moving like a truck, just like down the lane, and he'll like leap and whip a pass across the court to somebody wide open in the corner, because his court vision is so good that like he knows where everything is all the time.
Right.
Which is awesome. I mean, not that Steph doesn't do that. He doesn't execute those plays in the same type of ways. Like, he'll just be kind of like toying with the defender at the 3-point line and like do some dribble around and whip some behind the back pass. Like, they both do these awesome things in two totally different ways. But LeBron is like this like graceful giant, and it's like awesome to watch.
Right. So, I mean, I think in a couple of years this might be a better question or a better debate, just because we've seen LeBron's greatness for 12 years now.
Yeah.
And we've only seen Steph's for 2 years, I guess. I mean, he's been a good scorer his whole life, but we've really only seen this explosion for the last couple of years. So I think maybe in, let's say, 5 years, when we hopefully see Steph doing this for 5 more years, I think it'll be interesting to see what people think about LeBron then, or even Steph then, because I feel like I want to see if Steph becomes underappreciated, where it's like, oh, Steph didn't have 40 and didn't hit 12 threes. Wow, what a terrible game. It's like, really? You can't expect that from someone every single night. And we do expect that from LeBron every night. We expect 25 or 30. We expect 10 rebounds. I personally almost expect a triple-double out of him every night.
Right. I think one sneaky reason you might pick Steph is based on like the evidence that we've seen. Steph's teammates enjoy playing with him, and
yeah, that is a good point.
Not always true with LeBron.
That is a good point.
I don't know, if you look at the Heat Big Three teams, that chemistry is like awesome.
Right.
I think LeBron works well with players that are like his age or older. He's not so good with younger guys. Like, I don't think he'll be a good coach after he leaves the league, even though his basketball IQ is so high, because just the way, like, he doesn't really connect with guys who are still learning the game.
Right.
So he'd rather like have a veteran at the same skill level as a young guy. Like, and I think even if the skill level is a little bit less, like he'd still rather have the veteran because he doesn't have to worry about teaching him the job. Right.
That's very exactly right. He needs someone he respects and like trust. That's the word. But I think he's almost a little bit like socially awkward, I guess is a good way to say it.
He is an awkward dude.
Yeah, I think he's
which is fine.
he's so smart about his craft, and he is so focused on just being successful in that one aspect of his life that he doesn't know how to like make friends with Kevin Love or be a mentor to Kyrie Irving or whatever.
And the reason that he's such good friends with Wade and Carmelo and Chris Paul and Chris Bosh is because these are the guys he's known since he was, 17.
Right, and they've been there and done that.
It's kind of like a friends deal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's just his mindset is like he doesn't have time for people he's not already friends with. So that's why he joined up and played like with the big three because like, I'm gonna go play with my friends. And I think that's very possible later in their careers that these guys could end up against.
Yeah, what are we gonna call it? The Big Ten next? Holy crap! Carmelo, Chris Paul, LeBron,
I would love
Wade.
to see like all of those guys at age 35 all on the same team and just see how it goes.
Against
like,
this,
the team made up of like the 03 draft class.
Against this exact same Warriors roster. See what happens.
See how these like incredibly talented but old guys play. Like that'd be an awesome experiment in basketball. So I'm rooting for that to happen, and I want it to be the Knicks.
Of course you do, just so you can make it to the finals.
That makes me fun, right? I mean, like these Knicks teams, they suck, but they're also not fun.
Well, since you brought up the Knicks, I have to say the quote now.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm wearing my Carmelo Anthony t-shirt right now.
I also have a fun fact for you that I just learned, but so a quote I heard from, damn it, I forget who I heard it from. Someone was about the Knicks coaching search, and it was, the Knicks coaching search is like rearranging seats on the Titanic. No matter what order you put them in, the ship's still gonna sink. So there you go, Jonah. There's your Knicks of the week. Well,
it's because the captain of the ship is stolen. It's going to keep from running into icebergs, no matter who is like rowing the boat.
It's like the boat's already half full of water, and he keeps opening more plugs to open the floodgates.
You can get as many good engineer guys spot to make the ship go faster, but like the guy steering the ship is going to plow it right into an iceberg. So it doesn't matter how fast it goes.
But to make you a little bit happier, Frank Vogel has reached out to Phil Jackson.
Yes, I'm very excited about that news because I think Frank Vogel's a great coach. I think the Pacers were crazy to let him go.
Right, and it looks like Nate McMillan is going to be hired by the Pacers, who was on the staff of Frank Vogel. So we'll see what he was great in Portland for a while. We'll see what happens there. But
yeah, I think that's a pretty decent hire.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, we also saw Patrick Ewing interviewing for the Grizzlies job.
Right. And I heard he was a candidate at San Antonio. Yeah, right. Sacramento. Yeah. San Antonio. That'd been a good one.
Well, I mean, it'd be cool if he came back to coach the Knicks. Like Knicks fans still love Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, but like, does anyone want to subject themselves to that?
I don't know. Like, I feel like
I'm fine.
He doesn't seem like a person who I would think would be a good coach, but he's apparently been a really good assistant. So.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see. That's a big step from assistant to professional NBA coach.
Well, I'd just see him coach Georgetown first.
Yeah.
Let's see that, and then we'll talk, Patrick.
All right. So
he's fired Vogel in 2 years.
Let's get into. You want to start with the Eastern Conference Finals since we just talking about the Cavs?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so the Raptors have just blown out my Heat by like 25 today.
It was by 27.
All right. Okay. Okay.
89.
Right, which I did tell you was going to happen. Just saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Toronto. It seems like they're hitting their stride. Lowry just had 30 in back-to-back games for the first time in the playoffs, and if you saw the first 4 games of the Pacers series, him and DeRozan couldn't have thrown it in the lake from a boat. They're hitting their stride. It seems like DeMar DeRozan, he shoots so much and doesn't score often. I mean, he'll have 25 a night, but he'll get it on 30 shots. So that scares me a little bit. But I do like the team with Lowry. He's hitting everything right now. It all started with that half quarter in game 2 or 3 or whatever it was, but that was terrible.
That was amazing.
So as much as I'm talking about the Raptors, I still think the Cavs are going to win the series.
I think the Cavs are going to sweep the Raptors.
Yeah, I know you did.
Out there right now.
I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I guess I'll go with Cavs in 6, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it in 5. The Cavs are firing on all cylinders right now. If you follow Richard Jefferson on Snapchat, they are out having parties all the time with Little Kev, who's a GQ magazine model pretty much from that looks just like Kevin Love. So I don't know, it's brought them closer together.
Parties before the conference final.
I know, it might be a bad idea.
Yeah, as a Knicks fan, I don't want to let Smith out of his house. Like that'd be my policy.
But yeah, the biggest reason I like the Cavs is because they've won 8 straight games this playoffs, and I truly don't believe that Kyrie Irving has even come close to playing a good game yet. He might have scored 28 in a couple of games, but I don't think he's been anywhere near the Kyrie Irving that I've seen for a lot of years.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think the Cavs, I don't know, like the Raptors do seem to be hitting their stride in some ways, but like, I don't know, in other ways, they won 2 7-game series that they could have won faster, probably, in terms of talent level.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
This series with Miami was a freaking rock fight. Like, it was like an atrocious series of basketball in a lot of ways.
Right.
Like, we did see a little bit of the D-Wade renaissance, which I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, thank God. That was so nice.
Yeah, I call that out for you. But but overall, I don't think either team played very well in that series. So, like, I'm not super encouraged by the Raptors' performance. I mean, I think they're fine, the Raptors, but I think they just are what they are. And that's, like, a team whose ceiling is where they are right now.
Yeah, I don't see... it would take a significant injury to the Cavs to get the Raptors into the finals. And I know I picked them at the beginning of this playoffs, but that was before I saw LeBron be LeBron again, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, these last... they win 2 straight? Yeah, these last 2 games, like 2.5 almost, for the Raptors, they've really... It seems like they've done a complete 180 from how it started. They struggled very badly in 7 games against the Pacers, and Paul George gave them everything they could handle, but they got through it. It's not about how pretty it is, it's just about getting through it. So they're here now. It's the farthest the Raptors have ever made it, ever.
That was incredible. I saw that stat. I was like, they've never made a conference final.
I know. They had Vince Carter, they had Tracy McGrady, they've had some great basketball players before, so... But, yeah, I don't see them getting by the Cavs. I think the Cavs are just too hot right now and just too talented all around. The Raptors are probably a solid piece away, and from the report that we heard this week, it looks like DeRozan is basically halfway out the door to L.A., so that's going to be a big problem for the Raptors.
Which is appropriate that he's going to Lakers, because the way he's playing right now with all these shots reminds me of late career Kobe right now. Not like early career awesome Kobe, like late career, like scoring a lot of points, but they're empty kind of points.
Yeah, I have a hard time figuring out like a comparison for him, because the way he plays, I don't know. He doesn't play exactly like Sean Livingston, but he has the same like pull-up game that Sean Livingston has. Like,
I like it.
He'll get to the free throw line and then smack one in your face that you never thought could go in.
And he can kind of do a little post-up thing. I know Livingston loves to post up smaller guards.
Yeah.
Like, that's like his favorite thing to do.
Right, and he has a terrible 3, so Livingston does too. But he also has a little bit of Dwayne Wade in him, where like he can just consistently hit that step back or fadeaway foul line jumper. He's one
of the better mid-range jump shooters in the league.
Yeah, I think by far and away that D-Wade is the best mid-range shooter, like maybe of all time even. He's top. He's top a couple.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I don't know. I guess you could see DeRozan as like a weighted light, like a poor man's weight.
Yeah, because he's crazy athletic too, so he should be able to do a lot more. Like, he should be getting to the rim a lot more frequently than he does. Kyle Lowry should never get to the rim more than DeMar DeRozan does.
No, this is what I'm saying with DeRozan. Like, you got to take it to the rack. because he's so athletic and he's fast and he's also strong.
Right. But I think
he should just be going to the rim and drawing fouls, and Lowry should never step inside the paint. That's what should be happening.
Well, I think the biggest problem with DeRozan is that he never was a scorer. Even in college, he never scored. I mean, he scored, but he wasn't a go-to scorer. He's never had to do that really. So I think he's still really learning his offensive game, and I think he could be a very scary basketball player once he gets there. And he's from LA, so if he goes back to the Lakers, it's like going back to home. And I don't know, that's a solid core with Russell and Clarkson and Randall and DeRozan, Brandon Ingram, hopefully. That could be pretty scary.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, especially, I don't know, a lot of noise about Paul George. Shouldn't even have at least a couple of the guys that you mentioned, but they had Paul George on that team. That'd be really interesting.
Right.
He's a big guy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers might be good before too long. We'll see if Luke Walton's a good coach. It's just like the Steve Kerr mask.
I would assume they'll be better before the Sixers, so that's just a positive for them. But yeah, so we'll wrap up the East by saying the Cavs are going to be in the finals again, which I'm pretty excited about. One, because I know the Warriors want to see the Cavs more than anything ever, because everyone's saying it's a fluke and they can't beat them if the Cavs are fully healthy. Yeah, right. We'll find out. But hopefully we will find out, so that'll bring us right to the next matchup, which I think might be one of the best playoff series we could ever see with the Warriors and the Thunder. I'm praying for 7 games just because I want to see these teams play 7 times.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction when the Spurs won that, Spurs was disappointed. When I started it, yeah, I mean, the times that we saw the Spurs and Warriors play during the season, those games weren't exactly great. They were close, but they weren't fun to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in terms of, pure watchability, I don't know if you're doing better than the Warriors and the Thunder, where, you have, I mean, seriously, you have 5 of the top 15 players in the league in this series.
Right.
And you have 3 of the top 6.
Yeah, and you have let's see, you have the last 6 scoring champions. You have.
Wait, the last 6? Didn't Carmelo win one?
Durant won 4. It might be 6 of the last 7. Durant won 4 in a row. Westbrook won 1, and then Curry this year.
I think Carmelo edged Durant one of those years.
So then,
it might be 6 out of 7.
Yeah, so 6 of the last 7, which is still incredible.
I'm wearing his jersey right now. I gotta have it.
Yeah, so that's a lot of scoring. The Thunder were up in 3 of the games they played against the Warriors this year. They were up in the fourth quarter in all 3. It took heroics from Steph to hit basically a half-court bomb to win a game.
That was probably the most memorable moment of the regular season for me.
Yeah, easily. But
so
it's gonna be fun.
I don't know if all those games can be like that again. Please God.
Yeah, seriously. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of talent on this basketball court, and there's so much scoring, and it's gonna be, both crowds are always incredible. I think Durant would almost kill to be back in an NBA final to get one more chance, because everyone's basically dismissing the fact that he could ever win one because they don't think he can get by the Spurs. They don't think he can get by the Warriors, and if he does, they don't think they can get by the Cavs. So I think he's almost chomping at the bit just to get a chance and prove people wrong. I still see the Warriors winning. I know a lot of people are taking the Thunder now from what they saw, but I still think the Warriors could get it done, and I don't think they can get it done in 6 because that would mean they'd have to win in OKC. So I could see in 5 or 7, and I'm gonna go with 7 because I don't think they can beat them 4 out of 5 times, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd also go Warriors in 7 probably. I think they could win it in 6. I mean, that famous Curry shot was in OKC. Like,
right.
10 games there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, Warriors in 6 or 7. I think the way I was looking at this potential series before it became official was the way that the Thunder win the series is if Steph is like a little bit hobbled, you know?
Yep.
But he pretty clearly demonstrated against Portland that he's fine.
Even if he is hobbled, it doesn't matter.
Right, and he's Steph, like the Steph we've seen all year. So, like, if that happens, I think that they're probably good. In terms of, like, just pure player matchups, it looks pretty dangerous for the Warriors, though, I think. Because, like, Westbrook is the exact type of player that they have a lot of trouble with.
Right.
Like, I don't know who they have who can guard him. Because, like, I'm guessing they'll probably put Draymond on Durant.
I bet you they put Harrison Barnes on Durant. I bet you it's a combination of Barnes and Iggy.
That makes me nervous.
Well, I mean, that's what they do with LeBron. That's what, most of the time, that's what they do with, that's what they've done with Durant in the season.
Yeah, I mean, what they could do with Draymond is, because what the Thunder did that was really smart in the Spurs series is they pulled out these lineups where they had Cantor and Adams both on the court.
Right.
Which is pretty unusual in the NBA to have two guys of that size on the court at the same time. But it really worked against the Spurs, who were kind of old. I don't know if that lineup plays against the Warriors because Cantor can't guard like the middle schooler. Like he's like one of the worst defensive players I've ever seen.
They're gonna try it though, so
they are gonna try it.
So I think their response from the Warriors will be to go small ball, with Green as a center, which means they're gonna need to rebound big time. But then that also means that Cantor's gonna have to guard if it's Iguodala or Barnes or I don't know, Sean Livingston. Something. Good luck. So
they're gonna try and hide him on whoever they think the worst offensive player on the court is for the
which
might be Iguodala, but
yeah, which is good luck finding because they're all fantastic offensive players.
Right, they can all score. Like you can't hide someone on Iguodala. He's too good.
Right. Yeah, like it's like Miami and the Raptors when we just went small with Winslow at the 5. They put Biyombo could guard Winslow because he hasn't hit his stride yet with his 3-point shot, and he doesn't really have the ball in his hands often, so it's easier to hide. But that can't really happen on the Warriors. So this is going to be I think this is going to be a series of adjustments, and whoever can adjust better, and I guess whoever can get to their game better and quicker will win the series. And I think Steve Kerr is better coach than Billy Donovan. 1, because it's obvious, and 2, because Billy Donovan, it's his first year, and they don't have 73 wins under their belt right now. And 2, the Warriors are the better team, like as a whole. The Thunder have 2 of the 3 best players on the court at all times, but I don't know. I'm never gonna pick against the Warriors in 7 games. Just like it's pretty. Like the last 5 years, it was almost impossible to pick against LeBron in 7 games. I don't see how you can do that with the Warriors and Steph right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think what the series are going to come down to for OKC, like their secondary scoring options after Westbrook and Durant, because that was a big key to their success against the Spurs. Was they had guys other than them scoring in big numbers. They had Cantor scoring a lot of points. They had Adams playing well. They had Andre Roberson suddenly hitting outside shots. They had Waiters hitting shots. So if they're going to win this series, they're going to need a lot of production out of those extra guys. Like those guys are going to get theirs, but if they're going significant, like a number of points, then the Warriors just have too much.
Right, yeah. I don't see our Waiters going off again. Roberson's not going to have another 15 or 16 point outbreak like he did in Game 6 against the Spurs. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. But I still think the Warriors are good enough to get by them. And I think that's going to set up a great rematch with a hopefully healthy Cavs team and hopefully healthy Warriors team.
But yeah, I can't wait for that finals if that's what happens.
But it'll even be fun if it's Thunder Cavs, but I'd just much rather see Steph again.
Well, right. I mean, it'd be cool to see Durant chasing his first ring.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be pretty special, too, but,
Right.
you know.
All right, so you want to get into the NHL now?
Yeah, let's talk about the NHL for a little bit.
All right, cool. So where do you want to start? Want to go?
Well, I just want to say, you said in the intro that these were a couple teams in the Western Conference that nobody expected, but I would like to add that my predicted conference final for the West before the playoffs began was indeed the Blues and the Sharks. So
Yeah, well, I was close. I had the Sharks and somebody else. The Kings, maybe.
No, because the Sharks and the Kings played each other. You had the Kings beating the Sharks.
You're right. I had the Kings and I think I had Kings and Stars, so I actually wasn't even close.
Yeah, and like I had Pittsburgh playing the Islanders because I hadn't,
Yeah, had them like actually being good, but then you realize they weren't actually good.
But I
So
did pick 3 out of the 4 conference finalists, so I'd like to sing about for that.
yeah, but you picked the wrong finals because it's not going to be the Blues and it's not going to be the Penguins.
Right, yeah, I'm sticking with my Blues Penguins pick. We'll talk about the series a little bit. I don't know, what series you want to talk about first? You want to start with the West?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so I said before the playoffs started, especially in regard to the Blues, I said that they were the Villanova of the NHL, that they were the team that had a lot of underachievement, and people thought they just couldn't get over the hump, but this was going to be the year they finally did it. This was the year they finally beat the Blackhawks. They beat Dallas. They got to the conference finals. I expect that momentum to continue. I think that the Blues win over the Stars was more impressive than the Sharks win over the Predators in the same number of games.
Yeah, so that was interesting because the Blues. So Dallas was home, right? They had home ice.
Yeah, the Stars just friggin' laid down in that game.
Yeah, but they blew out the Blues in St. Louis. Like, just really beat them bad in Game 6. They must
have just spent their energy in Game 6.
So everyone's like,
no explanation I can think of.
Yeah, because everyone was like, oh, the Blues aren't gonna go again. Here they go, blowing a 3-2 lead, and then they just go back to Dallas and just absolutely slaughtered them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ken Hitchcock, the Blues coach, has saved his job with his playoff performance. I'm very happy to see that. Because there was rumors that if they'd lost to the Hawks again, that they were just going to blow up this roster. But this roster is way too good to blow up. Like, there's so much talent on the team. Especially with Tarasenko. I think he's one of the best young players in the league.
Oh,
and then they've had a little bit of a shaky goaltending situation. It's like there's been some goaltending controversy. Ultimately, he stuck with Brian Elliott and it paid off. I don't know how much faith people have in Brian Elliott, but if you look at the goalies left in the playoffs, none of them are the guys who you would consider like the A1 goalies in the NHL. Like, Holtby's out, Lundqvist is out, Corey Crawford's out, Johnson Quick's out. So
right. Rene.
Yeah, so you have a lot of goalies right now. I mean, in the West, it's Brian Elliott and Martin Jones. And in the East, it's Matt Murray and maybe Ben Bishop, who's day-to-day right now. But if not, you have, like, Andre Vasilevsky, who's, like, pretty much a backup, which is what Matt Murray is, too. So, like... He
played really good at the end of Game 1, though.
Yeah, he played most of one of the games against the Islanders, too, and he played well.
Yeah, so, but I think out West... I think you have, if the Sharks make it to the Stanley Cup final and win, obviously, I think Burns is going to win the MVP. He's had great playoffs, and the Sharks are in a way the same as the Blues. They always have a ton of talent and never really live up to that.
Neither team has ever won a cup, which is pretty surprising.
Yeah, so right. So Jonah and I aren't calling this the year of the sleeper or anything, because a sleeper is, in my opinion, someone who you don't expect has any chance to win a cup or win a title or of any sport for that matter. Villanova had a chance. The Blues and the Sharks have a chance. They always have a chance.
Yeah.
But we're going to call it the year of the sleeping giant because it's like a sleeper of a team that's really freaking good that just doesn't ever live up to their potential. So they're potential-wise, they're here, but they just have never lived up to it. So now one of the teams probably is going to. I like the Sharks just because I don't really know why. I mean, they're both pretty even in my mind, but I just feel more confident with the Sharks probably because of the Blues and as like their recent history. And as I say this out loud, it makes me want to pick the Blues because I love Troy Brouwer.
Yeah, I do love Troy Brouwer.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be a good series. I could see it going 7 for sure. But I think the one problem the Sharks could have is the style of the Blues play, where they're just gonna punch you in the mouth and then they're gonna score some crazy, awesome finesse, beautifully passed goal. So I think that could be some trouble. But I like the Sharks.
Yeah, I'm picking the Blues. I love both of these teams. I mean, I did have them both get into the Western Conference Final.
How many more times are you going to say that?
But I'm a big fan of both of these teams. A lot of talent on both sides. Yeah, I mean, I just tend to have more faith in the core of the Blues. Like, the Blues core is a little bit younger, and I think they're better equipped to get through a playoff instead of seeing them play a lot of games. Like, the Blues, their first two series both won 7 games. The Sharks won in 5 games and then won in 7 games. But having them both come off 7-game series, I think the advantage goes to the younger team, and that's the Blues. So I'm going to stick with that pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can really have a bad pick in this series. I think both teams are really talented.
I think it's going to be great hockey. I'm really looking forward to watching it.
Yeah. So let's go to the East then and pick the opponent of the Blues or the Sharks. We have the Penguins, which is like the worst team ever, and they're just terrible, and nobody likes them, nobody wants to talk about them. Against the
Sound like a cat.
Is that what I sound like? Against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who I am actually mad at myself that I didn't think the Lightning. Neither of us picked them to beat the Red Wings, and here they are.
Listen to the Red Wings. That was the worst call in the playoffs.
I'm actually mad that I didn't see this coming because they did this last year. Like they know what the situation is. They know how to get there. They know how to win.
I just figured out Stamkos, but Jonathan Drouin's really stepped up.
Yeah, and Tyler Johnson is so good, and Kucherov is probably going to win the MVP if they win. I mean, Hedman has had an amazing playoffs.
Yeah, Hedman is awesome. He was the second pick in the draft where the Islanders got Tavares first overall. And
wow, what a top 2.
Yeah, obviously you picked Tavares 10 times out of 10 just because he's one of the 5 best players in the league, probably. But
right.
But like Hedman is certainly as good of a consolation prize you can ask for. He's like massive defenseman who can also score goals. Like he reminds me a little bit of Zdeno Chara, which is like a little bit of a weird thing to say. I mean, he's not obviously as tall as Chara, but like
he's such a playmaker too, though.
Yeah. I mean, he reminds me of kind of prime Chara, which is like really good, really good defenseman. I'm still picking Pittsburgh to come out of the East as I did originally. At first, I was very concerned with their goaltending because, like, who knew anything about Matt Murray?
Yeah, he's been pretty incredible. But
he's been awesome both in the Cap series and the Rangers series.
Yeah, he was the difference maker in the Cap series early on. They were so frustrated they couldn't get anything by him, and that killed us at the beginning. But I'm interested to see. So Penguins just lost game 1 at home. Right? It was at home, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see now if they're gonna go with, if they lose another one, if they'll go with Fleury, who supposedly is ready to play. They just haven't pulled
the hot hand right now, but
right.
He's not the hot hand anymore. You might see a goaltending change. I agree with that.
Right. So I'm interested to see how that could affect them mid-series. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Lightning because of what I just said. They've been there and done that, and I think they're the hottest team in the playoffs right now. They're clicking on all cylinders and winning a lot of games and pretty handily.
Yeah, they're 8-2 in the playoffs so far. I think they won both their series in 5 games.
Yeah. So, and they've also gotten the rest that you talked about. Like these 3 other teams went to 7 games, and you hear the Lightning are in 5. It's kind of like the Cavs of the East in the NBA right now.
Right, exactly. So, like, yeah, the Lightning are definitely well rested. They showed that in game 1. I'm a little bit concerned if Bishop isn't 100%. Like, I don't know.
Right.
He's listed day to day right now. And so whether he plays or not is going to be a factor. I mean, Vasilevsky has looked good, and maybe he's just going to go like Matt Murray, where he's just going to be fine. But
right.
and like Thomas Grice too. I mean, for the Islanders, he was a backup for the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't his fault the Islanders lost. I mean, basically everybody else's but his. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see Eastern Conference Final potentially match up with backup goaltenders. Will be pretty interesting to see. And I don't know, it's also a factor that Stamkos could return at some point.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. I don't know what his status was.
Because, like, he's had some blood clot issues, which is stuff you don't want to mess with. But, like,
yeah, ask Chris Bosch.
Right, it's stuff that, like, doesn't really make you look any worse, but, like, it's something you shouldn't play on anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, you're going to play the same, but you also could end up dead in, like, the second period.
Right, like, there's all these shots of, like, him skating around and shooting around, so I'm like, he looks fine. but then I'm like, oh, yeah, he could be in serious medical danger. But,
right.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, this stuff can go away. It's not like this thing you have forever. You're going to play hockey again. Like, the danger can go away, but that's just the thing his doctors are going to have to monitor. But if he does come back at some point during the series, or maybe if they get to the finals, which should be the second time in 2 years, which would be pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I also just realized I said the Penguins Capitals went 7, and that's because in my head I really wanted it to go 7 to make me feel better, but they only went 6, so just to clear that up.
I was thinking Game 6 was in Pittsburgh, that was Game 7.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and that
Pittsburgh was the higher seed, but the Caps were the higher seed.
Right, that says a lot about the way the two teams were playing in that series, that you thought the Penguins were the higher seed. So.
Right, exactly.
But I just want to put on the record that Jonah started out the game by telling me that he was going to watch it until it was 3-0, and of course it was 3-0 rather quickly. So I had sent him a text saying, I know it's 3-0, but please don't change the channel. Jonah changes the channel, and about 45 minutes later, he says, what the hell is going on? So that made me a little bit happier to be a Caps fan.
I changed the channel. I was just watching the Mets. Like, I wasn't even watching, like, the NBA. I was just watching the Mets game. And then, like, I just checked NHL.com for the score. I'm like, okay, going back to that.
Yeah, so
this is over yet.
It was definitely nice to see the Capitals finally fight for something. Of course, in true Capital fashion, it was too little, too late. I think we're a couple pieces away, but I was at least impressed with their fight. They had more talent than any team in the playoffs, probably, but they usually did when they were good back in like 2008, and they just didn't do anything with it because Ovechkin's a lazy bum, and he still is. But I don't know. We'll see.
Has Ovechkin still not gotten to the conference finals?
Yes, this is true. He's been.
I mean, not that the Islanders have either. I'm not like knocking.
So
I think that's
Ovechkin's been in the league, I believe it's 11 years now.
I think he was drafted in, he was drafted in 04 or 05, I can't remember which.
Yeah, so I think it's 11 years, and they've made the playoffs in 8 of those years, and he's never made a conference final, so he's 0 for 8.
Which is his number. So.
Ha, jokes. Well, let's just not get to TJ Oshie's number, and everything will be okay. 77.
Yeah, really.
But yeah.
Backstrom's, what's he, 92?
No, Backstrom's 19. Kuznetsov's 92.
Oh, Kuznetsov's 92, that's right.
But yeah, I don't know.
I love Kuznetsov. I think Kuznetsov's great.
He was really bad. I mean, not bad, but he couldn't get anything to fall for him towards the end of the season. He had like 1 goal since February, I think. So.
Yeah, I just have memories of him like single-handedly destroying the Islanders.
Oh yeah, dude! Last year he ate you guys alive.
Yeah, and that was pretty sad to watch. But I was like, wow, this Kuznetsov kid.
Yeah. He's gonna take the next step. I hope. I don't know. The Capitals are in a good spot. I think they're at least we got to the point where if Ovechkin does choose to leave and go to Russia at any point, we're young enough and skilled enough to at least contend for a like lower seeded playoff spot every year with Oshie and Kuznetsov and Burakovsky, and Carlson's not that old yet, so I like the spot.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Capitals and the Penguins was probably the best 2 teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in terms of talent, well, doesn't mean that the Penguins are going to beat Tampa Bay necessarily, but like I think those were probably the two best teams.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like unlucky that's the way it ended up. I think the Caps will be back.
Yeah, which is good to hear. Hopefully go farther next time. But yeah, so you got anything else for us?
I think that's good for this week.
All right, so slow week, but next week I'm sure it'll pick up with some really freaking awesome basketball games and good hockey games, and hopefully we can drag this out a little bit longer because we don't want to see these seasons end yet.
Yeah, really.
All right, so thanks for listening. Please remember to share the video on any social media you have, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks.
Thank you.